Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are on chapter 41 of Genesis. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. Kine is like cows. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke. And he slept and dreamed the second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Why not? We'll find out. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Remember the chief butler? Verse 23 of chapter 40. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. I do remember my faults this day. Oh, man. He called it a fault. In other words, he should have done the guy the favor. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with a young man, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. They said, Joseph did. Okay, so they're leading up, they're giving a false expectation to Pharaoh that Joseph is the one who can interpret the dreams. That's just the way they said it, but that's what the interpretation. We're finding out that men don't interpret dreams. They give interpretations by God. Okay. So, and told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream did he interpret, and it came to pass, as he interpreted unto us, so it was, and he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. He shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, you heard wrong, brother. It is not of me, it is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor, very ill-favored, and lean-fleshed, such as I had never saw in all the land of Egypt before for badness. And the lean and ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. So I woke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears, withered, thin, blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, immediately he knows. Spirit of God, when the Spirit of God is with you, you know things without knowing things. You just know that you know it. You have to get used to that. You have to learn to test the spirits so that you know what's of God, so you can be trusting the right spirit, which is the Holy Spirit. The dream of Pharaoh is one, but I just had 2 dreams. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty years blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he sheweth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. All the years of plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land, and the plenty shall not be known in the land by the reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. I want to interject some end time stuff here. This is why I believe, and I believe this is God's mercy, so that we don't have to store up for 7 years, but that God is showing us that he will raise up a man to lead the world, a nation who will provide for the world, to preserve enough food for the world for 7 years here. He's proven it, that he can give the knowledge, give the understanding, give the prophecy through dreams, revelation, interpretation, so that people will be prepared. God always makes sure that people are prepared. Even everything he did in Egypt, he said, if you don't do this, even when he was like, I'm going to hail on the fields, all the animals that are left out in the field, all the crops that are in the field are going to die. And it says that some of the Egyptians feared God, and they brought their manservants in, they brought their animals in, and they didn't get hurt. But all the ones who didn't fear God and didn't listen to God was warning, got killed in the storm, in the wrath, in the judgment, because they didn't fear what God said. They trusted what man said and what tradition said. So here's where I'm delineating myself, dividing myself from the rest of people out there going to talk to you. I believe wholeheartedly that 7-year peace treaty, we've known about it since Daniel. Jesus clarified it in the Revelation. And here's what we know. It's a peace treaty. And there's going to be daily sacrifices taking place right before the abomination of desolation, which means peaceful things are happening. Things are being reinstated. Traditional things are being reinstated in Jerusalem. There is peace for 42 months. Half of this, okay? This is 7 years. We only have to endure half. And God has given us this example to prepare us to understand our expectation of what we are to do. We are to watch. We are to pray. We are to not have to have anything in our house when we see it, because when we flee into the wilderness, we're going to go to where the preparation is. And the Jews who are in Judea are going to go into the wilderness by an eagle to where it is a place prepared for those Jews and those who are believers in Israel, in Judea, for instance, as it says. Okay? So this is why I believe we are on the precipice of a peace treaty. We are going to see abundance, fat, what's the word? And all the plenty shall be forgotten. Okay, but before that, I just want to read the words itself, because it is describing fat-fleshed and well-favored. Behold, there comes 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. People are going to think there's going to be 7 years of peace. There's not. It's going to be 3.5. So what I'm getting at, folks, is that God is merciful, but he's telling us to prepare. And if Joseph had ignored this, if the Pharaoh had ignored this, the world would have died. So I'm just throwing that out there right now. We got an eagle involved. People say America, some preachers say America is not involved in the end times. We're here, so we're involved. The Bible's going to have something to say about it, okay? We've got prophecies being fulfilled. I just want you to remember, there are so many people that talk about a 7-year tribulation, that there's going to be 7 years, and during this covenant, it's going to be all tribulation for Christians. It is not. It is not. This is what it's going to be. It's going to be 3.5 years of everybody, woo! The world is great. As in the days of Noah, they're getting married, they're giving in marriage, they're having babies. Woe to them. You see, they're planning for weddings, they're planning for this, they're planning for businesses, they're planning for all this stuff to happen because there's a peace treaty and they've heard all their life there's going to be 7 years of chaos. I was taught it. It's still being taught. I hear it coming out of preachers' mouths all the time. Watch out for these 7 years. And then they say you're not going to be here because you're going to be raptured out. That's a lie too. You're not going to be raptured out. You will endure the tribulation. And immediately after the tribulation, will the Son of Man come in the skies. Okay. But during this flip of everybody's mind, when people were like, well, I was told I wasn't going to be here. Well, I'm here. I was told the Antichrist is going to happen. Everything's going to be hell on earth. I'm not even being persecuted right now. I'm not being made to take the mark of the beast at this peace treaty because that's what I've been told. The Antichrist is going to rise up and take over for 7 years. Listen, he might be part of the peace treaty. Guaranteed, almost positive he's going to be part of it. But he's not going to do the abomination of desolation until the middle of it. And before that, the daily sacrifices are going on, which haven't happened in 2,000 years, which means there's peace on the Temple Mount or there's a temple built somewhere else. Either way, they're not blowing each other up like they are fighting. Now, God has brought peace. Not all this craziness. Read it. But we have 3.5 years of plenty. And I believe every Christian, especially those who are focused on this and God, can trust the stewardship of the abundance. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. God has allowed all this technology, all this industry to make things in mass. So where I could go right now to a store and buy a barrel of wheat. Now, I might have to buy it bag at a time to just walk into a store and do it. But I could literally go get a barrel of wheat if I had the money. There's abundance in America right now. We are not, but there's inflation and there's people struggling and all this at the same time. But when this time comes, someone was talking to me the other day and they said, we need to be able to have land and water and we can grow. And I didn't have time to get into it with her. But you're not going to have time to grow once the desolation of abomination. You have to use the three. This is why I'm bringing this up right here. They didn't grow during the famine. They didn't harvest during the famine. They didn't reap during the famine. They didn't increase during the famine. Everything was processed and put up knowing there was going to be nothing to steward that is alive anymore. Okay? We got to process all the meat, process all the fruits, process all the vegetables, store all of everything that we need, store the water, because in the end, the water that's in the lakes, the water that's flowing from the fountains, that's what's in the list that God's going to turn to blood. It doesn't say anything about the stored water in the end. However, in Egypt, even in the pots, it turned to blood. But in the end, it will not be so. And you need to have enough water stored, or be, when these things start to happen and we begin to see around us God's justice take place, as Lot did as he left Sodom and Gomorrah. And he encamped in Zoar, I think was the name of it. And the cities around him burned. Fire and brimstone fell from heaven. It did not hit the righteous, because the righteous are not appointed unto wrath, but it will fall around you. And if you do not flee from Judea, you will be persecuted heavily and killed. So I'm just interjecting that God is showing us here that there's not going to be no growing during the last 3.5. The first 3.5 is our time to prepare. Okay, you're watching this channel, I hope, because I'm bringing you the Word of God, and I'm tying it into now. What you need to know now, which is that we are in the end. You need to take God serious. You need to take his prophecy serious. You need to take his example serious that he's giving us right here. He's that same God that yesterday, today, and forever. He never changes. And then he prepared them 7 years in advance. He's given us 2,000 years. Now we have an understanding of the timeline of what we are doing and when we are at. We can see the wars, rumors of wars that will come to what? To pass. We're not going to be in the midst of these wars. They're going to come. All these earthquakes come to pass. And then, those are birth pains, but they will pass. The birth pains, birth, peace treaty. There's going to be a peace treaty after the wars come to pass. And then, go read it. We'll get there. I've already read some of it. So I'm pointing this out because I want you to understand God has told him to prepare for a destitute dearth. Yes, you need water stored up and enough to drink. And you need a way to get water. But you need a way to store 1,335 days worth of water for everybody you love and care for. Okay? Now that's the water you drink. That's the water you're going to rehydrate things with. And remember this, if you're not rehydrating your food and you're eating a bunch of dehydrated snacks, your body needs moisture, water, to rehydrate it, to process it. So eating dehydrated foods will dehydrate you if you don't drink enough water. All right, let's move on. And for this dream was doubled, it is because this thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. So it's going to come, and it's going to pass. The peace treaty is going to happen. 3.5 years of peace, daily sacrifices, great plenty throughout all the land, and then it's going to pass. And if you're a Christian, and probably even if you're not a Christian, the system is going to have been in control long enough to where famine hits. And if you're not prepared, and if you're not prepared to be out and away from Judea, running from Jerusalem, running to the hills of Judea, if you're not ready to run to the hills of Judea, that applies to wherever you're at, folks. It's a safe place, prepared with eagle transportation. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint him officers over the land, and take up the fifth part of the land, so 20%. So if you keep 20% of everything of your increase for those 3.5 years, if you put back 20%, will that be enough? A fifth part of the land of Egypt, in verse 34, in the 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let him keep food in the cities. Just listen to this, folks. And that food shall be stored to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God hath shewed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thee. He was wise because he knew God. That's what made him wise. He feared God. He had a relationship with God. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it on Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in the vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. So he went from the pit to Potiphar's house, or to the slave traders, to Potiphar's house, to the dungeon, to second to Pharaoh. From the dungeon to second to Pharaoh. Where do we go? And a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zephnath-Paaneah. And he gave him a wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God, said he, hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteous that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dearth began to come according to Joseph, as Joseph had said. and the dearth was in all lands. But in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. The people are going to cry out to leadership for bread. The eagle is going to have prepared a place for those who flee to the hills of Judea, which is literally a place, but also must be understood deeper than that. But in the land of Egypt there was bread, and when the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all Egyptians, Go unto Joseph, what he saith to you do. And the famine, this was not just in Egypt, folks. So I try to tell people, it's going to happen again. The famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. So, was it just in Egypt, or was it over all the face of the earth? It's the same terminology it talks about the plants in the in Genesis, in the beginning. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because the famine was so sore in all lands. So whole earth, whole world famine, prophesied to the greatest ruler in the world at the time, Pharaoh. Who's the greatest ruler in the world now? Would it be America? Chapter 42. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do you look upon one another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Go you down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. He's like, why are y'all just sitting around staring at each other? There's food in Egypt. I'm old. Go get it. So we don't die. And Joseph's 10 brethren, went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent not with him, for he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him. That's the only son he's got left of the woman he really, truly loved. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent, And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was, just in case you thought it was just in Egypt and you want to get back into some words that you just want to say, well, this word just means, when it says all the face of the earth, that's just their known area that they knew about. You might be able to try to make that apply to this, but this is just letting you know, it's in Canaan. It's everywhere. And Joseph was the governor of the land, and it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. Okay, so what this says right here, this is the beginning of letting you know what's going to happen to you if you don't prepare. And this is how the Antichrist is going to get a lot. I don't even think the Antichrist is going to have to do, he will prevail over us. It says he will prevail over the saints. So there's going to be saints here, people. So those aren't tribulation saints only. Those are people that are going to get saved at the end. Sure. What was I trying to tell you? I have been so tired lately. Oh, this is the beginning of what happens when you don't prepare. See, God has given us his word and told us to prepare, folks. I've been praying, God, please, just, like he said, don't let my flight be in the winter, and let me be prepared, Pray that your flight not be in the winter. That means you will have a flight. And Joseph saw his brethren. Okay, so first they come and he sells them stuff because they have money. They have the money in their immediate savings. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered the dream which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies. To see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are thy servants come. We are all one man's sons. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. And he said unto him, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, Thy servants are 12 brethren, the son of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. And Joseph said unto them, That is it, that I spake unto you, saying, Ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh, ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies. And he put them all together in ward 3 days. And Joseph said unto them the third day, This do and live, for I fear God. Ooh. If you be true, you know what that makes me think? That God said something to Joseph, like, Joseph, vengeance is mine, just because they threw you in a pit and in prison, don't mean you need to be getting some revenge by throwing them in prison. If you be true, it just reminds me of when, what's his name, took off. Isaac took off with Rachel and Leah and all the kids, and Laban chased him down. He's like, God told me not to say nothing good or bad to you. Otherwise, this is all my stuff, and I want it. It's kind of how I feel with a past relationship of this woman who has all my stuff. And, you know, I want to sue her for it. Bible says just let yourself be defrauded. But, you know, the devil just works with me sometimes. And I'm just like, it's my stuff. I want it. Some of it's sentimental. You know? That's how I feel that way when I read the Laban thing. And I kind of feel like the fearing God part, you know, why he didn't do nothing, why I'm not suing her. You know, it's like, I fear God, so I'm letting you out of jail. But if you be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses. I just feel like God worked on me. He's like, man, your dad's hungry. You're wasting time. But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, We are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. You see, he cried out, either from the pit, possibly both, or from the cage of the Ishmaelites as they put him in a caged wagon. And he cried out not to do this, not to sell him. Therefore is this distress come upon us. You reap what you sow. And Reuben answered them, saying, Speak I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the past tense. Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against this child, and you would not hear. Like, I told y'all not to do this. Therefore behold also his blood is required. That means one of us is going to die. That's why he's keeping one of us. He's going to kill one of us. Something's going to happen to Benjamin. You know, that's just here. They ain't saying all that, but that's just how I'm hearing it. Knowing the rest of the story, it just kind of feels like that to me. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. And he turned himself about from them and wept. And he knew Reuben right there. Okay, and they knew not that Joseph understood them. Okay, and he turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again and communed with them, and took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way. And thus did he unto them. And he laded their asses with the corn and departed thence. That right there is an example of when you are going somewhere and you are being sent out and you are in a resupply by a God-given resupplier. Not only will you get your supply, but God will often give you more than you came with. I've experienced that. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give him provision for the way. And thus did he unto them. And they laded their asses with the corn, and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. And he said to his brethren, My money is restored, and lo, it's even in my sack. He's like, my money's here. Look, it's in my sack. Like, I see these guys freaking out because of the way they talk about it. And their heart failed them. You see, this is not an exciting thing. And they were afraid, saying one to another, What is this that God hath done unto us? Ah! And they came unto Jacob their father, unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, The man who is Lord of the land spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said unto him, We are true men, we are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father, one is not. And the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, Hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for your famine of your household, and be gone, and bring your youngest brother unto me. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver you, your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. And it came to, that's a pretty good promise. You're like, look, just prove to me who you are. Go get your little brother. Don't, bring him in by himself. Get your whole band together. Everybody bring him back. I'll give you your other brother back, and then I'll know you're not spies, and you can do what you need to do. And it came to pass as they emptied their sacks that, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them, Me have you bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and you will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. And Reuben spake unto his father, saying, Slay my 2 sons if I bring him not to thee. Like, that's what Grandpa wants to do. That's not the point. He don't want to slay your sons. He wants his sons. If I bring him not to thee, deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. You give me Benjamin. First, he's like, if I fail, you can kill both my sons. They're really important to me. I don't want that to happen. You give Benjamin to me, I will bring him back. With the life of my 2 sons, I'm making this oath. Father to son. If you have a son, you might be able to understand that. If you're a father. It's different for a mother. Sorry, it is different. I'm not saying it's less, but you ain't going to hear a mother saying, well, I'll give up my kids. No mother wants to give up her kids. No mother would even wager with their own hubris and pride that they could accomplish something and literally risk the lives of their children. Like if there was a show that said, win $1 million, lose a kid, or lose a kid, all you gotta do is put your kid over the pit, or in the range of the gun, or in the chamber, or whatever, and you get the opportunity for $1 million. But if you lose, your son is dead. So no woman is even, I don't think, gonna wager that. But men, he's talking to his dad about his dad's son, his brother. And you have to remember, this is Reuben. Reuben didn't want this to happen. Reuben wants to make this right. He never wanted to see it happen to begin with. So he's motivated on the fact that he loved his brother to begin with, because he loved his father. And he knew his father loved his brother, if for any other reason. But Reuben loved Joseph. He didn't want him to die. He didn't want to sell him into slavery for real. He was planning on getting him out of the pit and taking him back to his dad. The other ones are the ones that sold him into slavery. And then Reuben realized that when he went to the pit and he was gone and he ripped his clothes, they sold him without Reuben knowing. And Reuben's been looking for the opportunity to fix this. Okay? And now Joseph is dead to them. And he's like, look, Dad, we can't go back. Well, he ain't got there yet, but we can't go back to the land unless we take Benjamin. And I'm telling you, as a father, you take my 2 sons. Kill them if you want to, if I don't bring Benjamin back. But I love my sons. And I'm going to fight to bring them back. To bring Benjamin back. So it's, to me, I see a strong oath between a father and a son over a father and a son issues. Wagering, not really wagering, but assuring. This is how important this is to me too, Dad. It's important to me that I bring Benjamin back to you. It's no light matter to me. What I'm doing, I don't want to do anything against you. That's what I see here. The one son who's like, I got your heart. I see your heart. I know, Dad. I know. I've seen you going down to the grave all these years in sorrow over Joseph. I don't want nothing to happen to Benjamin. To me, it's a reassurance of how important it is and that he gets it. So, and Reuben spake unto his father, saying, slay my 2 sons if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. And he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in which ye go, then shall you bring my gray hairs down, my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. He's like, if something happens to him, it'll kill me. I can't bear it. He can't go with you. I couldn't bear it. You know, it's like I've been in a few relationships in my life. All marriage, all covenant with God, all vows with God. What I believe God honors. And one thing I don't want in the future is this sorrow. I don't want the relationships to bring sorrow. You see? I don't want to go down to my grave with sorrow. I want to go down to my grave in the age that God intended my days to be. And let's say God intended me to live 50 years. Okay? That's what God said, Matt, the end of the world's coming. You're not going to make it to 50. But so for me, that's my timeline. For instance, right? Say this screen is 50 years, right? And I'm at 40. I'm into my old age. I'm almost, if that's the case, if God intends me to be 100, I'm not in my old age with family around me and sons to bury me. But I believe I'm going to be in the end here. So, chapter 43, and the famine was sore in the land. So they had went back. They took a whole bunch of food with them, enough to last for a while, obviously, because of this. And it came to pass, when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said to them, go again and buy us a little food. You know, nobody's understanding how, they don't know the prophecy. They just think things are bad. So he's like, go get a little more food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying. So, I mean, I see him like, all due respect. But this ain't, remember, this isn't Reuben, who's gung-ho about protecting. This is Judah who's saying, the man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt not send our brother with us, we will not go down and buy thee food. Like, we're not going. I don't care how hungry you are, Dad. I'm not going down there without Benjamin. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man, if thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And don't forget, Simeon's in prison. And Israel said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether you had yet a brother? And they said, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father alive? Have you another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go. Good Lord, that hurts my throat. Verse 8. And Judah said unto Israel his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou. Like, we're all going to die. Like, Benjamin's going to die too. We're all going to starve. And also our little ones. Like, Dad, we're not leaving without Benjamin. And the decision you're making right now is going to kill us all. And if we don't go, it's the only way to live and not die. Now Judah is making him an agreement. Verse 9, I will be surety for him, and of my hand shalt thou require him. So see, before, when Reuben made that deal with him, he didn't take it. He's like, nope, you're not going down there. If I bring him not unto thee and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. He's like, but he didn't offer his kids. He just said, I'll just take the blame for it. For except we have lingered, surely now we have returned the second time. He's like, if we hadn't been sitting here waiting to do this, we'd already been back. How many times have we heard that? If we weren't sitting here arguing about something, we'd already be done. And their father Israel said to them, if it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts, and almonds. And take double money in your hand. And the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure there was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, and go again unto the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, Bring these men home, and slay, and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they were like, oh crap. Because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time are we brought in, that he may seek occasion against us to fall upon us and take us for bondmen and our asses. Like they're like, oh God, what have we done? We're going to be slaves in Egypt. Foreshadowing. They confessed it. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, Oh, sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass when we came to the inn, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight, and we have brought it again in our hand, and the other money have we brought down in our hands to buy food. Remember, they're buying food right now with money. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And he said, Peace be unto you, fear not. Your God and the God of your father hath given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out among them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet. And he gave their asses provender, and they made ready the present against Joseph. And they made ready the present against Joseph came at noon. What? They made ready the present against Joseph came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. There's the prophecy, there's the dream. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, Is your father well, the old man of whom ye spake? Is he yet alive? And they answered, Thy servant our father is in good health. Yet he is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, his 100% blood brother, and said, Is this your younger brother of whom you spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there. People sometimes say, well, when do we know we're supposed to do something for somebody? Because you look at people, and then people just want to judge people and justify not having compassion, of feeding the hungry, giving someone a ride, or just judge the situation. See a need and have the ability to need it. How do you know if God wants you to need it? He will churn your bowels of compassion, just like he churned his bowels here. For his bowels did yearn upon his brother. Your bowels will yearn to help. And he sought where to weep, and he entered into his chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, Set on bread. And they set on him for him by himself. And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with them by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, the youngest according to his youth, and the men marveled one at another, meaning he knew how old they were, and he set them at the table from youngest to oldest. And he took and sent messes unto them from before him. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as theirs. And they drank and were merry with him. All right, folks. Next time we'll get into chapter 44. It's got to be getting close. Oh, yeah, we just got a few more pages. Like 5 more pages and we're done with Genesis. On to the next one. All right. Shalom, shalom.